Afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the special committee board. So everybody, left is Deputy Park. Ask, are there any declarations of interest?
Thank you, Vice Convener. Members, initially I'll start on the premises licence review application that's been brought by Police Scotland in relation to the premises Jael Gill, 26 West High Street, Crieff. Premises licence holder is Andrew S. Cuthbert. Police Scotland, of course, as Vice Convener said, are participating in person today. Inspector Jimmy Allen and Sergeant James Gordon. Of course, you also have Licensed Standards Officer Cormac. She's present and in person and has produced a. Now, it was recommended by officers to Mr. Cuthbert as premises licence holder, and members will be aware he's also designated premises manager for the premises licence, that he attend in person given the nature of the hearings and possible consequences to his licences. Mr. Cuthbert has chosen, he advised he would submit a written representation instead, as he has staff on holiday. Written representation has been received. Mr. Cuthbert, as a personal licence holder, and as members know, he has to have a personal licence to be a manager, notified the board of his conviction, which Police Scotland have confirmed as a relevant offence. Fortunately, due to how the licensing legislation works on personal licences, where a conviction is confirmed, any decision is on the details of the conviction alone. Police wish to provide additional information beyond the terms of the conviction, must submit what is termed a Section 84A request, and done so. So I appreciate it's quite complex, members, but today you have three different hearings before you, strictly speaking. You have a premises licence review, you have a personal licence review in respect to the conviction, and you have the personal licence in respect of the conviction and the additional information in relation to two other incidents. Now, although there are technically three separate review type hearings, the board today can operate in one. It can hear submissions of all parties together because the alleged circumstances are the same, as long as the board then proceeds to take decisions. Now, for members' information, the Police Scotland review letters, both on the premises and the personal licence, refer to a possible Section 114 offence. That, for members' information, that's an offence under the Licensing Scotland Act 2005, Section 114, subsection 1. Any responsible person in relation to any relevant premises who is drunk while on the premises commits an offence. The penalty is a fine not exceeding level 3 on the standard scale, which is a maximum of £1,000 on level 3, and there are 5 levels, so it's the middle. Under Section 122, subsection 2, a responsible person means, in the case of licensed premises in respect of which there is a premises licence in effect, the premises manager. Now, members, nearly finished, but in relation to the premises licence review, you have before you, within your papers, you have the police letter requesting the review, and you also have the Licensing Standards Officer's report. In relation to the personal licence, members, you have the notification of conviction from Mr. Cuthbert, and also a separate police letter that relates to the personal licence. Now, as members will be aware, the Chief Constable recommends a revocation of both licences. Lastly, members, just as a small reminder, the Licensing Standards Officer only has a direct role on the premises licence. Therefore, when making submissions, just remember it's only relation to premises licence only. I have nothing more to add.
Thank you, Deputy Clerk. Could I ask the police to speak to both?
Can you hear me now? Sorry. Okay, I'll just start again. Good morning. On Friday, the 6th of May 2022, Police Scotland submitted 2 letters to the board in relation to Mr. Andrew Cuthbert. Mr. Cuthbert is a personal licence holder and is also the premises licence holder of premises operated as JL Gill. In relation to the first matter, in terms of section 83(4)(b) of the Licensing Scotland Act 2005, I have to advise you that Mr. Cuthbert has been convicted of a relevant offence. On the 11th of March 2022, at Perth Sheriff Court, he was convicted of section 7(6), drink driving, failing to provide a specimen of breath. Disposal of this conviction was a disqualification period of 2 years and £400 fine with £20 surcharge. The circumstances that led to this conviction are as follows. About 17:58 hours on Tuesday, the 1st of March 2022, Mr. Cuthbert was involved in a road traffic incident, at which time he was driving his own motor vehicle on the A822 Creef to Murthill Road. Mr. Cuthbert attempted to perform a U-turn in a lay-by, reversing and colliding with the boundary wall, knocking it down. Behind that wall was approximately 1.5 metre drop into a private dwelling garden. The residents of the property, on hearing the collision, contacted police to report the accident. You will see from the letter submitted that the residents, on conversing with Mr. Cuthbert, he was found to be aggressive, threatening and confrontational, causing the residents to retreat inside the property to await the arrival of police. It was alleged that he was threatening to assault them, stating he would put them down. On the officers' arrival, they traced Mr. Cuthbert still sat within the driver's seat of the vehicle, and the vehicle was revving heavily, causing the wheels to spin, and there was a strong smell of burning consistent with the vehicle clutch. Police, on speaking to Mr. Cuthbert, detected a smell of alcohol from him and observed he appeared to be slurring his words. He was asked to exit the vehicle, and when he did so, he was observed to be unsteady on his feet, almost falling into the garden, the 1.5 metre drop into the garden below. Mr. Cuthbert was then required to provide a specimen of breath for a roadside breath test. He intimated he would not be able to provide such a specimen due to having a mouth infection. However, agreed to make an attempt. The positive roadside breath test was a reading of 122 micrograms, the limit being 22. Mr. Cuthbert was subsequently arrested and conveyed to Divisional Police Headquarters in Dundee. During the journey to police headquarters, Mr. Cuthbert claimed to be teetotal and claimed he had not consumed any alcohol. On arrival at police headquarters, whilst was still within the vehicle, Mr. Cuthbert became abusive, failing to follow simple instructions. He became verbally aggressive towards the police officers, shouting obscenities such as fucking cunts, and tried to pull away, intimating that he would not be told what to do. Throughout the subsequent charge bar procedure, Mr. Cuthbert's demeanour was erratic and moved between compliant and apologetic to hostile and threatening. Police thereafter commenced the drink driver procedure in respect of obtaining a further 2 specimens of breath. Mr. Cuthbert refused to provide such specimens, and the reason for being was I'm teetotal. Mr. Cuthbert was thereafter cautioned and charged with contravention of Section 7(6) of the Road Traffic Act, which is failed to provide specimen of breath for driving whilst drunk, for which he has now been convicted, as I've previously stated. He was also cautioned and charged with contravention of Section 38 of the Criminal Justice Licence in Scotland Act 2010, which is the threatening and abusive behaviour, and not guilty plea in respect to this charge has been accepted by the Crown. It should be noted that during the incident, Mr. Cuthbert was found to be in possession of a single white tablet that is generally prescribed in the treatment of alcohol dependency. This is not a controlled drug under the Misuse of Drugs Act 1971. The information submitted in relation to confirming the conviction of the personal licence holder, that procedure does not directly allow for other circumstances to be taken into account, as Mr. Elliott has alluded to. Therefore, an application has been made to the board under Section 84A and 36(1) of the Licensing Scotland Act 2005, as the Chief Constable considers Andrew Cuthbert, a personal and premises licence holder, has acted in a manner inconsistent with the licensing objectives of preventing crime and disorder, securing public safety, and preventing public nuisance, and reports to the Licensing Board both the information I've just presented in relation to the conviction and the following additional information. On Wednesday, 29th of December 2021, a member of the public found Mr. Cuthbert intoxicated, slumped over the counter, apparently unconscious, within GL Gill in Crieff. So concerned was the member of the public, she immediately attended at the nearest police office to report her concerns. A police officer attended, found Mr. Cuthbert slumped over the counter, apparently unconscious, being tended to by other members of the public. Mr. Cuthbert, being roused, was uncoordinated and, on attempting to stand, lost his balance and fell over within the shop. An ambulance was contacted to render medical attention. However, there was no medical concerns, and Mr. Cuthbert was found to be intoxicated through alcohol consumption. He was the only member of staff on duty at the time. A family member was contacted to attend at the shop. Mr. Cuthbert was later reminded of his responsibilities as a premises licence holder, CPM, and personal licence holder. He explained that he had been struggling due to the breakdown of a relationship and the pressures of running a small business during the COVID-19 pandemic. It was deemed no further action would be taken by Police Scotland at this time, as it was believed to be an isolated incident, and he was warned accordingly. Another incident that I must report on was about 1200 hours on Friday the 1st of April 2022. Mr. Cuthbert's father contacted Police Scotland to report that his son's ex-partner, who is an employee of the store at JL Gill, had found Mr. Cuthbert drunk on the premises. Police officers attended to trace Mr. Cuthbert leaning against the counter. Although at first appearance he was capable of holding a conversation, when he attempted to stand up properly, he was unsteady on his feet and visibly under the influence of alcohol. The premises was left in the care of another staff member who had been present throughout Mr. Cuthbert was conveyed home. Despite having been intoxicated on the premises at JL Gill on 2 occasions, it's not been established whether Mr. Cuthbert has been consuming the stock from within the premises. I now respectfully request the board to allow me to provide you with an update since that incident in April.
Yes, please. Thank you. Are there any questions for the police?
I've got quite a few questions actually, but I'm actually looking for times on the 29th of December. First incident that the police turned up in your letter on Wednesday, 29th of December. I just wondered what time that was at.
Yeah, for the 29th of December, it's 12:31 hours the call received. That's after midday.
Asking that day, how did you find Mr. Cuthbert? Was he drunk on the premises at that point?
Yeah, that was where he appeared unconscious within the shop premise. Yes.
Am I on now? Yep. On the Tuesday, the 1st of March, the next paragraph on your letter, when you had the accident, how was he when you turned up? Obviously, you're saying intoxicated. Was he? He was still in the vehicle, I take it, but very intoxicated. Is that right? Is what I'm saying. Can I ask then, how long was it before they arrived from the time that Mr. Cuthbert was had his accident? In someone's garden. It looked.
It's about a half an hour difference, so it's 17:58 hours, and the police arrive at 18:31 hours.
I'll just go back to the one on the 1st of April, I think it is. Found him again. You're saying on that one that had found Andrew drunk on the premises, and that time was 1200. That's fine. That's all.
Okay, Councillor James, questions?
Thanks, convener. I'll be brief because Councillor Brock is most of the ones I would also have asked. I mean, there's several references in your letter to being intoxicated. Just for clarity, was he actually drunk? I know it's possible. Just for clarity, we want to know if he's actually drunk.
Yeah, for clarity, with Police Scotland, it's probably a jargon that we use. Intoxication. If someone's intoxicated, they're generally drunk.
Sorry, the only other thing I have is arrest, and I would assume would have led to a night in the cell. Was his erratic behaviour the same when you let him out?
No. Anytime police have interactions with Mr. Cuthbert when he's sober, he's very rational and polite and speaks with the officers. It's when he's intoxicated, behaviour deteriorates.
Thank you.
Sorry, could I just add, when you're saying about intoxication, for the drink driving aspect, he blew almost 6 times the legal limit. So
Can I ask about the drugs that found in his possession and is that Also at the scene of the car crash, he was asked to remain in the vehicle. For that. So have I got the wrong bit? Okay, that was at the station. Ask, are there any further questions? Councillor Bailey?
Thank you. Yes, he was found to be drunk on the premises at 13:48 hours. 13:13.
Okay, any further questions? Thank you. Could I therefore ask the licensed standards officer to speak to the report? Just to explain, the licensing standards officer's report is in relation to the premises license and not the personal license.
Morning, members. Premises licence number 0332 was granted by Perth and Kinross Licensing Board at their meeting of the 29th of January 2009, took effect 1st of September 2009. The licence was granted to Andrew Stewart Cuthbert, and the premises have operated for JL Gill since that date. The reported events within Police Scotland's letter dated the 6th of May 2022 are of concern, which details their findings as a result of the incident. Should the details within the request for review be agreed, then I would agree with Police Scotland that there has been contrary to licensing objective, preventing crime and disorder, securing public safety and protecting public. I've not had occasion to inspect these premises and cannot comment.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Nothing for me. But just what a daft one. I know if you visited the premises, generally speaking, hostile will ask for a register. You know, if he actually kept anything, and if these incidents that have been reported were actually in that register.
I don't have a record of whether an incident. It's best practice that people keep them. It's not mandatory that.
Thank you. Could I ask, would the police like to sum up, please?
Can I just ask?
That's where we're, yeah. Actually,
Further question? Thank you. Could I ask again if the police would like to sum up?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Cuthbert has been given an opportunity to resolve his personal matters, which he identifies as being the root cause of his initial indiscretion within the licensed premises. However, since then, Mr. Cuthbert's behaviour has escalated. He has shown a total disregard for public safety by consuming alcohol, then driving a motor car, whilst, according to the approved roadside breath test device, were almost 5.5 times over the legal limit. Having then caused an accident and damaged the property of another, Mr. Cuthbert has shown no remorse for his behaviour towards the residents and police officers was reportedly appalling. It is clear from the recovery of the medication used and the treatment used in the treatment of alcoholism, that Mr. Cuthbert has at some point recognised that he's a serious problem with alcohol and sought medical attention. However, he continues to pose a danger to himself and others and causes a public nuisance through his actions whilst intoxication and shows no consideration for his responsibilities under the Licensing Scotland Act 2005. So it is therefore Police Scotland's opinion that both his personal licence and premises licence should be revoked. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I ask if the licensing standards officer would like to sum up, please?
Got nothing further to add.
Thank you. Members, do we wish to retire to consider the matters?
Everything.
Shona, could I ask you to remove the sound, the slide and unmute the sound so the session is in, so we're in session again, please? Members, we have had the chance to consider matters in retirement. We will now take this slowly as there are separate decisions to take on. 1, premises license for J.L. Gill. 2, the Section 83 hearing for Mr. Cuthbert's personal license. And 3, the Section 84A hearing again for Mr. Cuthbert's personal license. Members, we will first deal with the premises license for J.L. Gill. We've had the chance to consider the matter in retail. I'm going to ask each member in turn to give their decision whether or not grounds for review are established. Turn to Bailey Brock.
Thank you. I think grounds are established, as I don't think Mr. Cuthbert is a fit and proper person. Can I ask the Deputy Clerk to narrate?
Thank you. I think the narration would be that having regard to the licensing objectives, A, preventing crime and disorder, B, securing public safety, C, preventing public nuisance, the licence holder is not a fit and proper person to be the holder of a premises licence given his conviction behaviour. Consequently, as a matter of law, the premises licence must be revoked with the revocation taking effect within 28 days of the date. That correctly, that's some in a motion.
Councillor James.
Thanks, convener. Yeah, I would agree with that. Thank you.
Members, we next have the. Is there anything the Deputy Clerk wishes to add on?
Better. Yeah, okay. You seem to have to press the button on and off twice to actually achieve it. Okay. Sorry, members. There are more technical issues on a revocation of a premises licence. A revocation must be recalled if a transfer application is received and granted within the 28-day period. So, members, would you agree to delegate, firstly, the recall of the revocation? It's a must recall, so it would be obviously delaying matters to bring it back to you. And secondly, a possible extension of the 28-day period pending determination of a transfer application, and all delegated to the clerk for the licensing board or licensing staff. Just to explain, with an extension, if a transfer application is received, say day 27, we need time to process that. Would you be content to those delegations?
Yeah, I'd agree.
Okay, can we move on to the next item now, which is the S83 hearing. Members, we next have the personal license for Mr. Cuthbert to deal with. This part relates to the Section 83 hearing, which means we are considering the conviction only, not considering the other incidents brought by Police Scotland. I'm going to ask each member in turn to give their decision on whether or not to turn to Councillor James.
Thanks again, convener. And I think there is enough evidence, given the offence and the subsequent behaviour. I would recommend a revocation on the grounds he's not a fit and proper person, and he's asked the deputy clerk to. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion would be having regard to the licensing objectives: A, preventing crime disorder; B, securing public safety; C, preventing public nuisance. The licence holder is not a fit and proper person to be the holder of a personal licence given his conviction and behaviour. As a consequence, it is necessary to revoke the licence with immediate effect. And just to be clear, Councillor James, that behaviour is out of the one incident. Is that agreed, Councillor James?
Yes, I agree with that. I think
Agreed.
Can you hear me now? Members, we next have the section 83A hearing to deal with, 84A hearing to deal with on Mr. Cuthbert's personal licence. We are now considering the conviction and the other incidents brought by Police Scotland. To ask each member in turn to give their decision on whether the personal licence holder has acted in a manner inconsistent with any licensing objectives, any of the licensing objectives. Having due regard, I'll start. Having due regard for the licensing objectives, Mr. Cuthbert is not a fit and proper person. Ask calling the Deputy Clerk to narrate.
Thank you. Motion would be having regard to the licensing objectives: A, preventing crime disorder; B, securing public safety; C, preventing public nuisance. A licence holder is not a fit and proper person to be the holder of a personal licence given his conviction and behaviour, and as a consequence, it is necessary to revoke the licence with immediate effect. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Not on that particular matter. Just members would like to make it clear that you've had, because of the legislation, you've had to go through two decisions of both a Section 83 and a Section 84 hearing on the personal licence, but the effect is the same. Overall, you have revoked the premises licence with the effect in 28 days, and you have revoked the personal licence with immediate effect.
Okay, but I thank everybody for the time this morning and what decisions that for us. This now brings proceedings